I'm calling in the creator to the CEO who crave creating community and cash to create it like a boss. With me, Katrina Julia, as your host, multi-passionate entrepreneur, creator, and CEO who has walked from fear to faith, self-hate to love, corporate to calling, and continues to, with experience in 7+ industries, 7,000+ creators and startups, 2 creators to Fortune 500 brands, including Google, NBC, Victoria's Secret, and more. If you are ready to create it like never before in faith, wellness, wealth, marketing, business, travel, and more, this is the show for you. If this is your time to have freedom in all forms as you create it like a boss, let's create it. Welcome to my Creator Confessions, and the first Creator Confessions for 2024, where I'm getting a little more personal. So in this episode, I am jumping into how December deviated from what I thought in more ways than one. In fact, the last 2 to 3 months compared to what I envisioned for the end of the year were different, to say the least. And it also gave me so much awareness, so much healing, and so much transformation for what I desire to create into 2024 and all throughout the year as well. So if this is your first time tuning in, the Creator Confessions are for creators to CEOs who desire to see and hear the behind the scenes of a creator to CEO. And I cover things from faith to wellness, to wealth, to marketing, to business, to travel, to community. I share real talk, hashtag behind the scenes of a creator to CEO, usually in about 30 minutes. Sometimes it goes about 45 minutes ish. These are one of my longer binge-worthy episodes. And if you haven't yet, speaking of, definitely subscribe to my email list. You can do that in the link in the show notes, because every single month before I record this episode, I send out an email blast so that you can keep this on record. And I only do the Creator Confessions on my email list strategically and on the show. I don't share this on the blog, although I could, and we could repurpose it with AI and or my VA. However, I purposely and intentionally only do this on my email so that you subscribe. Hint, hint, hint. Go to the link in the show notes, either subscribe on any of the things that interest you, and or directly at the very bottom, there's a quick subscribe option via Kajabi. And I also share on the show. So if you prefer to read sometimes, you can read, obviously, if you subscribe. And or if you prefer to listen, or both, and hit pause and share your own reflections. Because I know things like this have dramatically helped me listening and tuning in to creators that are further along than me, whether in some ways, whether it's creators like Vanessa Lau or Jasmine Star. And I actually was inspired to create this the beginning of 2023 through Vanessa Lau, because I loved how she shared her, I think it was creator to CEO or something. Anyway, she stopped it. It wasn't creator to CEO. It was CEO Confessions or something like that. And I nicknamed mine Creator to CEO Confessions. But in any event, my December completely deviated from what I imagined. If you tuned into my last Creator Confessions early December from November, then you know how November was. And if you haven't tuned into those past ones, I definitely recommend you do. And as I walked in December, the week and a half-ish was how I imagined. But then I spent about 2 weeks sick with bronchitis / on the verge of pneumonia in Bulgaria. And you guys, if you know anything about me, I have not, rarely, if ever, have been sick in the last 7-8 years. Even with traveling all around the globe, the worst of my illnesses in 2021 or 2022 were let's see, stomach illnesses like in Guatemala a couple times and in Costa Rica. Then, and I think it was mainly from sanitation or different things because I still stayed eating healthy. Then last year in Atlanta, I didn't feel well with shifting hormones in November. And then earlier this year, I think it was in September, October ish, when I was in Mexico, and I talked about this in my Creator Confessions too. I went to a Temazcal sauna experience, then which causes you to sweat out like crazy in 150 plus degree weather, like literal, like Temazcal hut experience made out of stone. Then the next day, I ended up walking, I think like 7 kilometers or somewhere between 5 to 7 miles in the blistering sun and heat, and was outside all day. So when I thought about it looking backwards, on that Sunday, I started feeling really tired. And that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was exhausted and then ended up being sick with like a mini cold ish. Like it wasn't super bad on that Thursday and Friday and Saturday into that like Sunday, Monday. Like it was at least 4 or 5 days that I was off, but it was nothing like these 2 weeks. And in any event, these last 90 days with experiencing that with my immune system and illnesses in Playa del Carmen, then experiencing this in 2 weeks in Bulgaria, definitely after my last, 5 to 7 years of being super healthy, not just with food and workouts and Herbalife nutrition, but also with being healthy overall, like not having colds. This was definitely a wake-up call for me to manage my energy, my environment, who's around me, even more, because that was the only things I changed between like the awareness that I just shared with Playa del Carmen. And then also, I love my parents dearly, but I was around them, or I should say, and I was around them for 2.5 months, pretty much nonstop between the middle of October to December. And we are like, of course, I have genetic lineage and different things, but we are definitely different in our focuses, in our communication, in a lot of different things. And it definitely brought up a lot of awareness, healing, clearing, transformation with being around them both in different ways. So I started my month in Bulgaria. I visited Aqua House Spa for a day after I ended up feeling great. Of course, spent the 2+ weeks in bed, sick and delirious with cold medicine. So, side note, at first I thought it was something minor and just I had a sore throat. But after about 3, 4 days, like my throat and chest started hurting like it's never hurt before. Like I've never had bronchitis this bad before, ever. And I had it years and years and years ago in Houston a couple times. So I definitely know like what it felt like before. And so I went then to the doctor and got antibiotics and cough medicine and everything. Like it hurt to talk and hurt to breathe for a couple of days. Like it was definitely scary. I spent Christmas in Bulgaria with my parents, which was definitely priceless and precious. And then I ended the year in Cyprus, my 37th country. So I'm recording this from Cyprus. I will definitely be sharing more about Cyprus. It's fascinating to me, just the mix and the history of the of going back to thousands of years to BC, then also control through the English and the UK, then the splits between South Cyprus, which is more so Greek influence, and North Cyprus, which is Turkish influence, and the history between the Turks versus the Cypriots, and so many different things that I've been learning and reading. So I'll definitely be sharing more about that. And it was interesting because I flew in on the 28th on Wizz Air on a direct flight from Varna. I did not want to travel anywhere else to get a flight. I wanted to have my parents take me to the airport, go on a direct flight with one stop, end up there. And it was so interesting, you guys. I'll talk about this in another episode, but it was so crazy, like landing, getting the rental car, having to cross the border, Yeah, well, I'll talk about that now because it's quick, but I'll talk about it more in my top 10 for Cyprus as well. Because when you go from South Cyprus to North Cyprus, and if you rent a car, which I definitely recommend, because the transportation here is not like it is, say, like that I've talked about, like in Mexico or in Costa Rica or in other countries, with buses and trains, it is an island to the south of Turkey. And so I decided before coming in that I was going to rent a car. I got an incredible deal on Priceline with about 300 euros for the month to rent the car. Like crazy, crazy, crazy. And I ended up and side note, you drive here like in the UK, like basically the opposite, that the steering wheel's on the opposite side that we're used to in the United States. You drive on the opposite sides of the road, in comparison to the directions you're going that we're used to in the US. And so my flight landed actually early at 9 p.m. And there was a closer border. And when you cross the border, if you're crossing from South Cyprus to North Cyprus, which I had researched beforehand, there's a closer border to the Larnaca airport, and you have to buy liability insurance when you cross into North Cyprus. So in some ways, even though it's peaceful, it operates like a different country with different laws and regulations. And when I went to the first border that was closer, I had missed the insurance company by about an hour. So then I tried to go to the second border that they said sometimes someone is there much later. And because of that detour, and the owner here at the Airbnb told me that she usually uses that border and someone's usually there, even late. So I trusted her and trusted that. But I should have kind of known, with January being off season. I then missed the insurance company by 30 minutes at the second border by the time I got there. So I was just cracking up at that point, and they offered to get me a taxi, but my Airbnb was still like an hour away. Then I knew the taxi would end up costing me like 80 euros. And I was like, no, 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 I'm just going to get a hotel and go to sleep and pass out here somewhere close by, because then I'll have to get another taxi that'll be another 80-ish euros the next day to come back and get the car. So I ended up spending a night unexpectedly in Nicosia, um, so that I could then go the next morning to get the insurance for the month. That's 35 euros liability to be able to drive around North Cyprus. And that ended up happening without a hitch. So moral of the story is, if you are planning to add Cyprus to your list, I definitely recommend a rental car, because the island, there's so many things to see all around the island. One. Two, if you're planning to stay in North Cyprus and your flight lands late at night, and North Cyprus is known to be cheaper as well. If you're planning to stay for the night, if your flight lands late at night, I recommend you stay the night in Larnaca and explore Larnaca if that's where you fly in, or Paphos, or wherever you fly in, before you go to your Airbnb. So book it starting the day after you arrive if you're coming on a late night flight and you're in the south and planning to then go to the north. So it's definitely an interesting learning experience, to say the least. So in December, I increased alignment to priorities with people and profits in spite of the 2 weeks being sick, and which I absolutely loved. I almost completed my inner child workbook at 95%. I reached 25,000 minutes of workouts for all of 2023, tracked on the Peloton workout app. And my divine discipline deviated in December in more ways than one. So during the 2+ weeks of being sick and delirious and out of it with the cold meds and the antibiotics and the cough medicine, and keep in mind, I'm someone that normally never takes meds or anything. So my body was definitely feeling all kinds of woozy. And I ended up finding and binge watched Blacklist on Netflix. So I'm definitely not normally a series person, but when I found Blacklist and just the storyline and the background with the FBI and so much more, it definitely appealed to me. At the same time, in spite of all this, I closed 2 business-to-business, one-on-one, ongoing creator to CMO clients. It's also interesting what's happening with one of them as we ended December versus how the project started gloriously, with a phase 1 approach of doing doing basically a data discovery and doing a discovery, and then a recommendations and a financial review. and a project plan for them, and versus what's happening now. So sometimes what I'm also discovering oftentimes is things may feel super aligned initially, but the key is that they stay aligned. And when they're not aligned, not being afraid to walk away and not being afraid to say like, hey, this, and this isn't working for me. Like, for example, like something as simple as, I sent 3 to 4 emails to them. The fourth email included the weekly wrap up, which summarized the other 3 emails, in a week. And the phase 1 project, they were amazing. They replied to the 2 to 3 emails that happened in that week to 2 weeks. And so for me, it was like night and day seeing how the phase 2 started to happen. And then, not being afraid to voice that and say, hey, like, I don't know why this is happening, but this has never happened to me in 15 plus years. And, if the only way to connect is via phone calls or meetings, like, this isn't going to work for me. And that's something I expressed before we even started phase 1. So I don't know yet, like, if that one's going to continue or if that one's going to stop in January, which is okay. So just sharing a preview of what's to come in January, likely or possibly. So after reviewing all of 2023, I identified 3 top priorities for 2024. So my focus intensified even more, which I'm really, really excited about, and by purpose and by priority. And I'm seeing so much more alignment and action and ease and flow. And these include B2B with one-on-one clients with creator to CEO/CMO work, retreats and co-living, and creator to CEO courses. So to increase focus and save time, I'm also scaling the top 3 priorities with automation and delegation. And I am thinking about ways to, like, what to scale next. Like, for example, even my voice can be recorded with AI with 11 Labs. Like, that's an example of where my brain and like the business is headed. Then also, I already made a note as I was setting up 3 emails to go out today, tomorrow, and the next day. I already made a note that my creator snapshots and my event emails can be scaled to my VA in this month next. So that's some of likely what you're going to hear for the January creator to CMO, creator to CEO confession or creator confessions. I increased focus with the aligned B2B proposals to about 1.7 million. So I proposed less this month compared to November. However, I increased conversion to 70% plus with meetings I ended up having with one-on-one clients. So that also was something else that excited me, that there was less proposals, 3 meetings, and increased conversion. And then also I've already outlined the steps to scale with the 4+ platforms for the business-to-business projects that I consistently find over $1 million a day in opportunities. I shifted my Black Friday toolkit and repurposed it to a creator to CMO toolkit, and align that to the one-on-ones and the courses to come. So this is where, we start to think about, like, how can we make things easier? And I used to be the queen of complication. Okay. So I created a creator to cash workbook, which aligns to the creator to cash bundle and the one-on-one opportunity to work with me on your creator to cash opportunities. And you can find all of that in the link in the show notes. Before the end of the year, I completed a social curator workshop, which then led to me creating a blog, a podcast that's, I think the episode or a couple episodes before this one, and email on my year-end reflections for 2023. And before the end of the year, I cleared over 500 plus emails. And also, you guys, here's the other thing. I was tuning into a yearly goals PDF and video with Marie Forleo, and I've been part of B School now going into the 2nd year. And one of the things she talked about in her videos, and I'm a huge proponent of this, is to purge and prune so that you focus more and you identify where you need to focus more. And also, like, clearing clutter. And as part of that exercise, what I've been doing is ruthlessly unsubscribing from emails. Okay. Because here's the thing, I love to learn. I love to learn. And you always hear me talk about how I'm learning. But I also recognize even years ago, and I created a rule where I create more than I consume. But I also recognize even in my emails, like using a tool like Boomerang, where emails only come in 3 times a day. But I also started analyzing and tracking the volume of my emails and what's the predominant amount of emails that are coming into my inbox. And I realized the predominant amount of emails coming into my inbox are growth emails, like podcasts, courses, things I'm learning, things I can learn. And I have a growth file that's either aligned to like the 5 to 7 key communities I'm a part of. And then there's a growth file that I have that's like a catch-all that I'm constantly either thinking about, okay, either A, am I going to continue to learn from this person or community? Or B, am I unsubscribing from this? And that is also especially linked to sometimes how many emails they send, like in a week. Like I don't mind sometimes like 3 to of course, like, and anywhere from 1 to 4-ish if they're doing a launch. But if I see consistently they're sending 2 to 3 to 4 emails a day, I'm like, oh no, you are not pulling my focus. So that's something that I invite you to consider too. So even with being sick 2 weeks, I felt really good on how things aligned and my purpose and my priorities. At the same time, I did clear my inbox down to like the priority emails that I have where I outline like my focus, progress, events, etc. But I did not clear my emails in my next folder. So beyond my inbox, I keep a next folder, which are the next items that I want to draw my attention to. So I did not clear that. I think since maybe a week or 2 weeks before December ended, I did not clear and go through my scale folder where it has all kinds of tech and tools and things I consistently evaluate to scale. However, I did integrate and implement repurpose.io again, I think a week or so ago, and I scheduled everything going out on repurposing content from October 1st on across channels like 10x to 100x, meaning like my Instagram posts go to Twitter, go to Pinterest, go to TikTok, go to YouTube, etc. And then my Twitter posts go ABC 1, 2, 3. So you kind of get the gist of how that IO intelligent outreach tool works. And I freaking love it. So I'm giving myself grace because obviously these were items that were nice to have and not must haves by the end of the year, but they are also, on my mind to clear out hopefully before the middle of this month. I decided to leave Bulgaria, as I shared, and take a direct flight on December 28th to Cyprus, my 37th country. I definitely needed to compress when I arrived, and I haven't been around nonstop family or people for a while, let alone 2.5 months straight, and Benji too, my parents' dog. So I definitely just wanted like some alone time. And I identified my word for the year as worthy, and I am worthy as I am. So I also talk about, if this is your first time tuning in with me, my 7 steps to success, which include spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, playfully. Hold on. Spiritually, mentally, playfully, physically, and okay, I'm being like a doofus right now. Spiritually, physically, financially, mentally, playfully. Why am I blanking? Okay, I promise I do this all the time. Where's my ClickUp? Let's look at my ClickUp because I'm totally blanking right now. Hashtag I'm human. Let's see. This is hilarious. 90-day plan. Okay. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, relationally, playfully, and financially. I was forgetting relationally, which is crazy. I was thinking about community a lot. And I think mentally and emotionally. Anyway, we're back. So, spiritually, I stayed stable in Bible reading and I got into Chronicles. This is my 3rd time going through the Bible since 2018-ish. and I listened to prayers in my own voice. I started Clearing Up Your Mental Mess by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. She's an incredible doctor in neurology as well as biblically, and she ties so many different things and studies between the two. I did breathwork and EFT over 15 times on a mental level as well. Physically, I shared earlier, I reached 25,000 minutes of workouts. I maintained daily aligned action with Herbalife and food. Financially, I increased focus on new, now, and overflow. I completed my financial budget for the month and estimates for 2+ months out. I increased inner work with finances with prayer, EFT, and breath work. Digital marketing decreased to 10+ emails, especially with me being sick and then not scaling that yet to my VA. Stayed consistent with 30-ish% open rates, about 28,500 plus downloads on the show. I recorded less shows with also being sick. I think it was about 7 to 10. 30 plus Instagram reels. That stayed super focused. I finished 90 plus reels in 90 days, 25 plus shorts and more. And I'm definitely increasing focus on increasing increasing intention, influence, and impact. Mentally to playfully, I fed my soul with prayer, journaling, EFT, hypnosis. I did the yearly goals activity I mentioned. Spent a lot of time with my parents in December and more hugs and lots of playtime with their dog Benji. And he slept with me at least probably 2+ weeks when I was sick, especially. I immersed myself in learning and communities with Epic Fab Girl, EFT with Melanie, Marie Forleo, Marissa Peer, Samantha Skelly, Social Curator, and B School. With the Wealthy Woman bundle that I invested in back on Black Friday, I completed Crack Your Money Code workshop with Christina and 10% of the budget breakdown course and module 3 of Cash Flow Confidential with Jamie C from the bundle. And I gave myself a lot of grace for December and deviations. And that is also my message and intention for you, that when things don't go as planned or things don't happen as you thought, and you literally, no one plans to have bronchitis or near pneumonia. Like nobody plans, especially like illnesses, period. So, whether it's that or something that's happening with your family or finances or whatever the case is, I think grace is the thing that sometimes we don't give others and we don't give ourselves, and we can't give what we don't have. So I increased my focus on filling my cup, my soul, and recharging. And I'll definitely be sharing how January also didn't start how I thought. I thought, I'm going to go to Cyprus and I'm going to go on these all adventures, but I just felt so depleted. And so I just took a lot of alone and woosah time, but now I feel like I am back. And what's crazy is I am seeing so many divine downloads in how I'm recapturing time with ease, love, and grace in so many ways. Like yesterday, in less than 30 minutes, I did more than I used to do in a week or a month or 3 months. Like it was crazy. So I'll be sharing more on that in the January Creator Confessions. So with that, I would love to invite you to jumpstart January with the Creator to CMO Toolkit, and or Creator Goes Global with the retreats, the Creator to Cash that I mentioned, and the Create It Community Circle that you can jumpstart in for free that's in the circles via, if you haven't heard of circles or joined circles yet, it's a tech company and tech tools that creates incredible communities online. So you can definitely check that out in the link in the show notes. As always, create, transform, and inspire because you are born to. All the chats on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and travel, so you create a life and business haven't already. Head on over to the blog, the podcast, and the freebies to jumpstart your transformation. If you're ready to dive into the online courses, the live events, or the retreat, and if you want to create with our community on an even deeper level, definitely check out our internships, our influencer collaborations, management, and brand engagements. Let's create it.